everyone, this is Peak Entertainment and we are back again, and here now we have another video for you and a continued build up to James Gunn's Superman 2025 project. I thought I'd take a look back at all previous cinematic entries featuring the greatest superhero character of all time. So with this edition we will focus on Superman 4, The Quest for Peace. Released on July the 24th, 1987, it has the once more immortal Christopher Reeve in the lead role, starring alongside the returning Gene Hackman, Margot Kidder, Jackie Cooper, and we get new additions with Sam Wanamaker, Mariel Hemmingway and John Cryer. The movie this time was directed by Sidney J. Furie. Now the story this time sees Superman once more continuing his role both as the world's protector and also as Daily Planet news reporter Clark Kent within Metropolis. Now at this point, the existence of nuclear weapons has become a major global concern, especially as tensions intensify between both the US and Soviet Unions. The Daily Planet itself is facing a takeover from business tycoon David Warfield, who wants much more of a focus on gossip and exploitative stories. We see master criminal Lex Luthor has once more broken free from prison with the aid of his nephew Lenny. Taking a strand of Superman's hair from a museum, he generates the genetic coding based on the Man of Steel and fixates it onto a nuclear missile. Superman intercepts the missile when it's fired and hurls it into the sun alongside other nuclear weapons that he has deemed too much of a threat on the planet. But from this event we see the genetic material has created a superpowered being known as Nuclear Man, whose power is also generated from sunlight like Superman. Lex manipulates Nuclear Man to destroy Superman, leaving the Man of Steel coming up against the most powerful villain that he has ever faced. Now when looking back at The Quest for Peace, it has long had the notoriety of being both the worst Superman movie ever and also one of the worst superhero films in general. And it's hard not to argue against those statements, especially when we look at the film itself and its production or indeed the lack of it. Now at this stage, original producers of previous entries, Alexander and Arla Solkind, had run into financial trouble and had eventually sold the movie rights to the infamous 80s movie studio Cannon Group, who compromised the budget due to a huge movie catalogue, and you can see it straight away from the opening credits. A very cheap transition with no real sense of awe or wonder like what we saw for the previous entries, where we had the title font coming at you in a very Star Wars like fashion. And overall, from the movie itself, everything just screams bad, from the effects to the editing, to the rushed plot, to the dodgy projection and opening matte transitions. The film also looks very cheap and low scale, such a far cry from the cinematic scope that was certainly achieved from the first two installments, and having standards already lowered when we had Superman 3, the quality has really descended to lower depths this time around that you struggle to believe it, to be honest, when you're watching it, especially from the low grading and the contrast. It just beggars belief how bad things have got, especially when dealing with a previously successful franchise. The film also lazily cycles story beats from previous entries with far less execution. As great and as charismatic as Gene Hackman is as Lex Luthor, it's disappointingly tired to go back to using the same old villain once more, with no real progression or development. He's just the same as what he has always been. Now of course we'd expect to see Lois Lane back, but the film does nothing with her dynamic, either with Clark or Superman. We get yet another tired retread of the flying sequence from the first film, and this time it's in daylight and it's just lacking the genuine sentiment that we saw first time round. Even the added presence of Mariel Hemmingway as Lacey Warfield as a potential second love interest adds absolutely nothing at all in terms of any potential interesting love triangle. Now despite all of these flaws and issues, there is still a potentially great Superman movie here, and I'm not just being contrarian or trolling. Conceptually, I really do feel that there are some solid ideas. Superman showing concerns over the use of nuclear weapons makes absolute complete sense within the character. Now, having been given far more creative control, some fans questioned Christopher Reeve's decision to include the Cold War politics into a Superman story, going for a much more real-world relevance. Now, that criticism is ironic given how many recent iterations of Superman today do exactly the same thing. But if we really think about it, this is exactly what we would expect to see from Superman, as the guardian and protector of Earth, he would indeed take a proactive stance if the world is in danger. And this goes on to feature two of the best scenes of the entire film, the first being Superman addressing the world's nations over his concerns. Note how he goes through the process of attaining sponsorship and approval first before making his speech. This is again exactly what Superman would do. And during this scene, when he speaks, you completely believe his intentions and concerns, a testament yet again to the undisputed portrayal of Christopher Reeve. And it's not only one of the best scenes of the movie, but I think it's one of the best ever Superman scenes in general, whether it's on the big or small screen. And one of the few times that the movie actually does achieve a sense of integrity and sincerity, as does the concluding scene of Superman's final speech, once more embodying the character the way that it should be done. The whole narrative of the Daily Planet prioritising more tabloid-style headlines instead of journalistic news is again something that's all too relevant in today's culture, especially on social media. We then talk of Nuclear Man, and after the anonymous supercomputer alongside Ross Webster from the third film, we once more have a villain as powerful as Superman, and maybe even more so, which in many ways should raise the stakes and add more dramatic tension, much like what we had with the second film. And whilst yes, the visuals are absolutely terrible here, we do at least get Superman in large-scale fights, battling Nuclear Man all over the world, whilst still being aware of the collateral damage around him. We see many fights over China. This includes sequences where we see Superman reconstructing the Great Wall of China and plugging a volcano. We even see Superman and Nuclear Man fight on the moon. So once more, we do get these big epic comic book set pieces that you'd absolutely want to see in a Superman movie. And again, if executed right with a substantial budget, these scenes could have been something very special. So in terms of story and setup, we actually could have had a very good, possibly even great Superman movie, better at the very least than the third entry. It's just overall let down by bad production and budgeting, which drags everything down beyond people's control. Only really Christopher Reeve once more maintains his integrity and class and standard in the lead role. But all other integrity, it seems, was lost, and this was reflected in the film's box office performance. Only managing to debut at number 4 in US cinemas, it grossed a paltry $15.6 million in that territory and only $36.7 million worldwide from an albeit reduced budget of $17 million. It ended up being one of the worst flops of the year and the lowest underperformer of the entire franchise. Superman 4 was rightly derided for its cheap effects and production values and seemingly uninterested cast of actors. It's been noted that Christopher Reeve himself knew the lack of quality during its production and really only returned to the fourth film after an increased salary and also guaranteed financing for his own personal project, Street Smart. And yes, when looking back, Superman 4 still rightly stands as the worst live-action Superman movie ever at this stage, but I will still maintain that there was potential here that if it had production value similar to the previous 3 entries, that something far more substantial and of high quality could have been attained, but sadly that wasn't to be. And this would be a death knell in terms of Superman movies for at least the next 15 years. So there's my overall thoughts and feelings when looking back at Superman 4: The Quest for Peace. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And if you have any other further movies, television series, or any other topics for the pop entertainment and culture scene that you'd like to see me cover within the channel, then also let me know within the comments, and I'll see if I can provide further commentary for you on that subject matter within the future. Please also hit like the subscription and notification buttons so I can provide you more quality content like this in the future. But that's it for now. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you very, very soon.